My name's Abby Proch, and I'm the executive editor for Clinical Leader, one of several life science publications within the Life Science Connect community. And we specialize in delivering content for clinical research professionals, those tasked with designing and executing the trials. The topics that I find most interesting in the life sciences sector, given our editorial focus lies solely in clinical research, the most exciting subtopics for me in that arena are patient recruitment, enrollment, and retention. And I love just hearing about how pharma companies approach these activities and how they're trying to get closer to the patient in almost every single way. So they're not only trying to drive participation among the patients, turning them into participants, but in doing so, they're also positively impacting the trial results. The trends that I'm seeing emerging right now, given the current political and economic climate, particularly in the US, are trends in the impacts of staff and funding reductions to the HHS, the NIH, and the FDA. So we're hearing lots of conversations about people who have left, departments who have been impacted, and what the downstream effects those might have on drug development. And then we're also seeing some conversation about the impacts on US tariffs and the impact on the wider field of drug development. So at this point, I'm not entirely sure what the impacts will be specifically on clinical research, but we're just hearing a lot about what those tariffs might do in terms of where companies are, selecting trial sites, or even, what's going to be in their pipeline and how they're going to manufacture those active ingredients. For private companies, aside from, the government institutions, we're hearing that there are also layoffs and reductions in force. And that seems to be at atypical, higher than we've seen post-pandemic. People are always wanting to know what's the next step for FDA. And that's particularly of high importance now, given the changes that have come along with the new administration. But some evergreen topics that are always pertinent to our readers are going to be those in data management, those in patient centricity, in patient recruitment. That's one of the age-old questions of how do we drive more patients to our trials and get them into the trials, raising awareness. And then finally, anything to do with sponsor, CRO, and site relationships. People are always trying to understand the dynamic. At times there's a power struggle. At times there's challenges with understanding one another. So any of the articles that are going to come in and explain how to navigate those relationships or improve them is going to be useful to our audience and popular with our audience.